I'd like to say good evening to everyone, and at this time I call to order the February meeting of the Culpeper County Planning Commission. We again welcome you all here. I think, this week coming up is the day that we celebrate love all around this nation, and we just, if ever we needed a hug from everyone, we need it right now. So we encourage everyone to, if you can't do anything else, can't buy a gift or whatever it might be, just a big hug would do. But what I have for you tonight, and what we have for you tonight is first on the agenda will be the call to order, which I've done, but there's a message there, and there's a statement there, and we'll read that tonight, and I don't think we'll have to read it every meeting, but tonight we will read that and to your hearing, and it reads and it's the purpose of the Planning Commission. Our general mission statement is what I'll be reading. It is the mission of the Planning Commission to serve as an advisory body on land use and development issues to the Board of Supervisors, to effectuate the duties and responsibilities as set forth in the state enabling legislation and county code, and to facilitate community participation and public interest in planning for Culpeper County. That is our mission statement, and I commend you all that have been here with us. That is what we have tried to, and keeping each other online to make sure that we stay within those boundaries. Now, establishment of a quorum, Morgan, that status, of course, we have a quorum, and just following this new agenda that we have. So, okay, all right, and we'll remember also to raise our right hand when we vote if it comes to something like that. Okay. The next item on the agenda will be the, and let us also keep our Commissioner Lance Kilby in our prayers also, and that we will be able to have him back with us soon, very soon. So now, the approval of the agenda that we have before us, we've received those. The chair entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Okay. Now, the minutes from our January 14th meeting, we've received those. The chair entertain a motion to put those to the record.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, the minutes will be placed into our records. Now we go to our new business, and we'll turn it over to Denise. If you would.
Good evening. First item on new business is your draft Planning Commission annual report. As you are well aware, the State Code of Virginia asks for the Planning Commission to develop an annual report to be given to the governing body. So this is your draft report for review, and then we can talk about it, and if you are good with it, accept it, and it will be forwarded to the Board of Supervisors. So I'm just going to quickly go through it. It does look a little bit different this year, thanks to Morgan. She spent some time making it a little nicer to look at, so I want to thank her for doing that. You have your purpose statement and mission that you just read of what the Planning Commission does and the enabling legislation within the Code of Virginia. Then you have your table of contents. And then you move on to, I cannot read that, so I'm going to have to look at this. You have on the lower left, the membership of the Planning Commission, as well as your terms, contact information, and then last year's meeting attendance. Then you move on to the actual meetings throughout the year and what was reviewed at each month, including the Architectural Review Board. And then you have your case summaries of what happened over the course of the year, including your rezonings, 3 pages of conditional use permits that you reviewed over the course of the year, and then the ordinance amendments. Finally, there are miscellaneous case summaries related to items like, I can't read that, sorry. renewal of ag and forestal districts, and you also have your telecommunications. It does include planning activities from 2025, including the administrative site plan approvals, how many subdivision activities that you had broken down by lots and magisterial district, the zoning permits that occurred over the course of the year, and those are broken down by the month, and then new dwelling permits and ag exempt permits. Finally, you have the transportation activity that's been taking place in the county, which includes things like your smart scale applications, your revenue sharing funds, the pipeline studies, and the 6-year secondary road improvement plans. And then, of course, you have your annual updates where you review the capital improvements plan, the status of the comp plan, and then your adopted goals that you adopted last month for the upcoming year. So the next steps would be if the Planning Commission has any comments or edits that they would like to make on this. And once you are comfortable with it, we can forward it to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, Morgan, for updating it, adding a little touch to it. That's a reason someone would give a person a hug, because of those kind of things, okay? All right, so that was a good lead in. Commissioners, are there any questions at all? We had those. Being none, the chair entertain a motion to accept the draft report.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Okay. Okay. Then we're going to move into the work session? Is
Yes,
the work
sir.
session things. The chair entertain a motion to move into our work session.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
We now move into our work session. Thank you.
So tonight you have before you 3 work sessions. The first one is just a highlight of the state and local solar policies as they exist. And the goal is to just do a quick overview of these so that everyone is kind of operating from the same point of information for any future upcoming solar applications that you may be considering. So tonight, we're going to just do a quick overview of these code sections of Virginia and then how they translated into Culpeper County's comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance. And then we will do a very brief overview of what's happening in the General Assembly right now. So this first code section relates to the enabling legislation that came out of the Code of Virginia for solar, and it basically states that localities have the permission to create regulations related around solar, using reasonable regulations to meet accepted national environmental protection and product safety standards. I will say that we will be posting these PowerPoints to board docs so that anyone can view them after the meeting. There's a lot of information on these. The next one relates to the enabling legislation to allow for localities to authorize solar projects through a special use permit. We call these conditional use permits here in Culpeper. The next one relates to if a locality chooses to look at changing their zoning ordinance for these measures, that they be done so in a way that is consistent with the Clean Energy Act of Virginia. And it also includes some of the information that is the goal of the Commonwealth related to 20% of the state's electricity come from renewable energy by 2030, 100% be carbon-free by 2040, and net zero emissions by 2045. In addition, in the code, it allows for any applicant of a solar project to come forward with what's called a siting agreement. And the siting agreement basically allows for applicants and jurisdictions to work together in terms of financial compensation, anything related to mitigation impacts of any potential project, and if the applicant was to look at the county's CIP or its fiscal budget, things of that sort, to work with assistance of deployment of broadband. There's a number of things listed within the enabling legislation that speaks to what can be included in a siting agreement. So how did this translate to Culpeper County specifically? In 2023, the comprehensive plan was updated, specifically Chapter 2, Land Use and Development, was looking at ways to relate to solar to ensure the future utility scale solar energy projects do not significantly impact existing rural and residential rezoning, or residential surroundings. The Board of Supervisors passed a resolution, and it really had three distinct parts to it. The first part was the actual resolution that included the whereases, and then it went on to also include general guidelines and draft conditions for consideration. So under Part 1, we're calling it Part 1 for ease, it talks about compliance with the comp plan, addressing the public health, safety, and welfare, and talking about just trying to limit utility scale solar sprawl by limiting the size of individual projects. So the general regulations tend to go even further in speaking to what the county would like to be considering, and they include things like the economic impacts, the impacts on historic battlefields, designated battlefield lands, easements, and then specifically getting to limiting the amount of solar energy generation to approximately 1% of the county's land mass, or a total of 240 megawatts. It further states that preference should be given to projects that do not require a substation. And then land disturbance shall be limited to 100 acres at any given time. And then finally, giving preference to projects that have evidence of viability and providing to the local electricity being generated. This is an exhibit that was a map that was included that shows actually the Civil War battlefield boundary areas, that speaks again back to the guidelines of not wanting to impact our historic resources. And then further in the development policy, there are a number of draft conditions that go through things like access management, decommissioning, noise, landscaping, lighting, setbacks, erosion and sediment, soils, what have you. So how did this translate into the adoption and update of Article 17, which is in our zoning ordinance now? Now, these are the actual regulations that are included in Article 17. And basically it states that you can apply, an applicant can apply for this utility scale solar facility with a conditional use permit. And then there's an extensive list of items that applicants need to address in their application. Everything from the area regulations, the size, the setbacks, view shed analysis, historic resource impact analysis, archaeological sites and structures, fiscal impact analysis, vegetation management plans, soil reports, geotechnical reports, transportation impact analysis, and downstream well testing, decommissioning provisions, fire and EMS coordination and training, noise limitations, signage, security, lighting, liability insurance, wildlife access corridor, natural resource inventory, and then finally an annual notice of activity to be given to the county administrator. So any solar application that comes before you needs to address any of these things. And then finally, this is a hot topic within the General Assembly right now. There are a number of solar bills. This is just a few to show you. There are things that are literally changing daily. So if you go back and look at this presentation, I please caution you to know that the information may be dated within the hour as the General Assembly makes its way through looking at these things in committee, subcommittee. One we found today was already postponed until 2027, or continued until 2027. And that one is the right to farm one at the very top, which was looking at adding the operation of solar panels as an agricultural use under right to farm. That has been continued till next year. But it gives you an idea that this is, the entire topic of energy is a big one right now at the General Assembly. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, or we can move on to the next work session, which is actually a specific work session on a solar application that is before you.
That list of requirements
Yes, sir.
that they have to meet, before it gets to us, the staff would have already looked at that to make sure that they're in compliance with that list, right?
Right, so what you have tonight is a work session with the applicant. You do not yet have a staff analysis. The staff analysis of all these materials will be included at the time of public hearing.
Sure.
So we are making our way through the materials with you all at the same time. You will have noticed that, there was 900 pages of materials that were recently submitted that, that the applicant is here tonight to kind of walk you through at a high level. And staff will be creating a staff analysis for you to see next month, or whenever the public hearing is scheduled.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Go ahead.
It talked about, we're going to limit the amount of solar to 1% of the acreage in the county. It was 2,400 acres.
Correct.
So how do we, is that literally the amount of area that the solar arrays sit on? Or is it the facility, the whole facility inside the fence line? How are we measuring that?
I actually don't have an answer to that. It's a resolution that basically laid out these guidelines. So they're not regulations, they're guidelines for the county to consider as they're moving forward.
Thank you.
Okay. No one else? We can move forward.
Okay, so next up, you have a work session on case number U-2258-251. The Planning Commission will hold a work session on a CUP application for utility-scale solar generation, and Chris Waring, our principal planner, will give an introductory overview, and then the applicant, Maroon Solar, is here to present. And as I mentioned, you do not have a formal staff analysis in front of you yet. That will be
Sure.
coming next month.
Okay.
So with that, I'll hand it over to Chris.
Good evening, everyone.
Good.
Quick overview of the Maroon Solar conditional use permit, and then I'll hand over the presentation.
Chris?
Yes.
Can you get that mic a little closer to you?
I can,
So,
yes. How's that?
Thank you, sir.
All right, great.
Okay.
So just doing a quick introduction of the Maroon Solar conditional use permit to get everyone familiar with location and what's being applied for. So Maroon Solar is the applicant applying for a conditional use permit for utility scale solar. That application includes a substation, and so there will also be a commission permit following State Code 2232. Owners of the properties include Party Virginia Timber 2 LLC, Walton Farms LLC, Wanda S. Evans, Willie David Crenshaw Sr. Applicant being Maroon Solar proposes the conditional use permit on property that's currently zoned A1 agricultural. The future land use designation in the 2023 comp plan designates that land as agricultural and rural. And the properties are located on Raccoon Fords Road in the Stevensburg district. The parcel size is 1,427.79 acres, and there is a siting agreement included in the application. So highlighted in red are the properties which comprise the conditional use permit surrounded by A1 zoning. Floodplain is present on part of the property. Some context in an aerial map for the neighborhood feel or the surrounding area, farmed and wooded, noting that part of the property is currently farmed for timber farming. Future land use designation is agricultural and rural, with the majority of the surrounding parcels agricultural and rural. One property is under a conservation easement. The applicant can speak more to the particulars of the project. This is from their site plan. It gives, I think, an overview of what is involved on a higher level with some details of the project area usage. You'll notice that the project area is defined as 291 acres, and the table below has a breakdown of what those acres include. 280 acres being solar panel array, 6 acres in access roads, 5 acres of the substation and switchyard, which total at 291 acres of the 1,427.79 acre total site area. 843.79 acres are undisturbed area, 91 acres under landscape buffer, and 202 acres are in stormwater BMP. So I would now like to turn things over to the chair to invite Frank Hopkins of Maroon Solar up to give a presentation and to entertain any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, sir. Sound like you just shortened that presentation?
Yeah, set these up here for you guys.
Oh, gotcha. Go ahead and take the covers off. Take the covers off.
Got to get it up to my height.
It comes out, that mic comes out to the view.
If need be, I'll go there.
Oh, no, you sound good.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Again, my name is Frank Hopkins. I am a, oh, okay, cool. Thanks. I'm a developer with Strata Clean Energy. and I'm here to represent Maroon Solar. A little bit about Strata Clean Energy. We're an American family-owned business for utility-scale solar. We have over 300 solar and storage projects to date, totaling $4 billion in clean energy investment. We employ roughly 1,400 employees. The majority of that is in our construction side, which is a big part of our business. And we were founded in 2008, so we have been in the renewable market for some time. Our Virginia experience, this is one of our prime markets. We have constructed 26 solar projects across Virginia, totaling some 2,500 megawatts, powering 2 million Virginia homes and businesses. And we currently have 7 projects underway. There are very, very few developers who can come here and put a slide up here like this. We are a trusted partner in constructing projects like this all across the state, and we'd like to be a good partner for Culpeper County. We have 3 operations depots across Virginia, so we employ Virginians. Our development team is almost exclusively from Virginia, to include myself and many of the folks here tonight. So we care deeply about making good projects in Virginia. An overview, which has already been done by staff. Just want to highlight again that we are coming in with the intent of meeting the solar ordinance and solar policy as they have outlaid. Again, it's a 291-acre project area, the total parcelage of 1,427 acres, 65 megawatts of output with a 100-foot natural planted and existing natural buffer. We have 200 feet from property lines. The closest house to this project is 2,400 feet to the fence line. If you take away that house, it's over like 3,000 feet to the majority of the other houses. We are protecting our RPAs with 100-foot setbacks. So Summer Duck Run, the floodplain you just saw, has a 100-foot setback from all of our streams. And of course, we have a 230 kV line that traverses the site. Most critical of that is that our substation to be constructed is inside of those parcels in line with the requirements of the zoning ordinance. As mentioned, we have a siting agreement in this. It would do $7.4 million of direct county revenue over the life of the project, which is 35 years. 1.65 million of that is upfront. Just to give you an idea of how that goes, we have milestones that go up until it is constructed to the grid, and that's where the 1.65 million will be paid up to. And after that, it averages roughly $100,000 a year to the county in the early years and almost $200,000 a year in the later years. So that's very consistent revenue for the county to rely on for the lifetime of this project. And now I'd like to introduce Heather McAllister. She's a permitting manager here with Strata Clean Energy. She has some more facts to share.
Good evening. I'm Heather McAllister, the permitting manager for Maroon Solar. We are excited to present this project to you guys this evening. The Maroon Solar project has changed substantially in many ways since the last time we came before the Planning Commission based on county concerns. For starters, the project has been sized down dramatically. We went from 671 acres in the fence line down to 291 acres in the fence line. This helps the project to meet the zoning, solar zoning requirements. The project construction time has been cut down to 18 to 24 months. We have increased setbacks. For example, the setback distance to Algonquian Trail went from 1,500 feet to over 1.4 miles. We have also reduced the entrances to the project to have one main entrance and a backup entrance to be used in post-construction only. The site has been designed with the updated stormwater regulations to meet DEQ requirements. Oh, sorry. This project is in compliance with the county's comprehensive plan. We will interconnect the project to an existing transmission line located in the project. The project is located on contiguous adjacent parcels, so there is one big project area, not a bunch of spread out areas. The project will utilize existing vegetation as much as possible and plant native vegetation where needed. The project has submitted a draft decommissioning plan. Don't know what happened. There we go. The project has submitted a draft decommissioning plan and an estimated bond amount with the permit package as attachment J. The county will review and approve the plan and bond amount prior to finalization. The decommissioning plan and bond is set to be reviewed every 3 years for updates.
So they can see what you're referencing. There you go.
There we go. The fenced area is roughly 20% of the project. This leaves another 20% for the stormwater management features and roughly 60% of the project will be left as undisturbed protected land. This project has setbacks of 200 feet or greater to all adjacent properties. And finally, the substation is located within the project area. The substation is about 3,000 feet from the nearest residence and will have 100 feet of vegetation screening around it. This is a self-sustaining project. As opposed to something like a residential development, this project will not have any impact to county's resources. The schools will not be impacted, water and sewer will not be impacted, and post-construction transportation will not be impacted. Maroon Solar is designed to really preserve the rural character of this area. There are roughly 843 acres that will be undisturbed and preserved in the current condition. These areas will provide a screening and protect the viewshed. In areas where existing vegetation is sparse, we will plant native vegetation to help protect the viewshed. Once constructed, solar projects are generally quiet. While there may be a bit of a hum, the vegetative buffering should dull out any noise. Proper erosion and sediment control and stormwater management are essential on a utility scale project such as this. Although the project could be considered grandfathered into the old DEQ stormwater regulations, we have designed it with the new regulations and are considering the area under the panels as impervious. We plan to have increased erosion and sediment control and stormwater management controls both during and after construction. Examples of these could include utilizing super silt fence, adhering to a strict construction sequence, soil amendments where needed, matting to improve seeding stabilization, and added protections to any areas of concerns. We will be using temporary and permanent stabilization methods on any areas not under active construction throughout the site, and we will maintain those stabilizations. And with that, I'm going to let Frank come back up and finish up.
One of the things I've heard continually doing community outreach is how important it is to conserve farmland. This project is on a timber tract, so it doesn't take up farmland. The other main issue that we've heard concern from and speaking with residents is housing and growth. And so again, this is a project, 1,400 acres, that cannot be used for a subdivision for the lifetime of this project. So those are two main key issues I really wanted to highlight because we're hearing it when we go out and we talk with folks that those are big ticket items. I think this is also the highest and best use of this property. As Heather mentioned, you know, there's a low drag on county resources, but a high amount of revenue to the county. There are very few projects specifically that could be a special use permit or in A1 that can provide that level of revenue to the county. And then we have a managed vegetation plan, so we're trying to be a good steward of the land and make sure that, again, at least 843 acre this are going to sit there and regenerate that soil over time. You imagine that timber tracts get cut periodically and it kind of tears up the soil over time. So this would be an opportunity for that land to heal for a little bit. I mentioned this last time, the Virginia Energy Outlook is not great, and I think the bills that she showed on the slide there are indicative of what's going on at the legislature. There's a lot of concern about it. Some of the facts here are not the best, but we'll go through them. We are currently forecasted to have 6.3% of annual demand growth in Dominion Zone, Virginia, and we're currently experiencing that. PJM, the Regional Transmission Organization, I like to call that the grid, are projecting we would have a shortage as soon as this summer. We don't really know. It just depends on what kind of retirements we have and what kind of demand we generate and what kind of weather we have. Dominion has responded to that by importing more and more power. It's really the only solution currently to solve our demand problem. And that was fine for a while, but in recent times, we have featured a 1,500% increase in the cost to import that power. So the energy that we're increasingly becoming more reliant on is becoming increasingly more expensive. Last time I showed some slides about the Dominion IRP. They updated that since then, and so I've got some updated facts here. For the next 10 years, they're projecting almost $100 of increase on the average residential bill. But that IRP is their plan in the future of things going well, and in that plan is to have more energy generated in this state. That would take them off of those importing costs. Now, in that plan, they are asking for 17,000 megawatts of new solar. We are 65 megawatts. They want 17,000 new megawatts of solar to offset those costs and obviously create reliability and new generation inside the state. So I just want to get some perspective of what's going on, what's driving the concerns at the legislature as well. There's a fact from the Department of Energy By 2030, we're projected to have between 213 and 430 hours of power outages. Those are significant numbers, and again, it's coming from the federal government that also has a concern about our reliability here in Dominion Zone, Virginia. So you have an opportunity to be part of that solution, right? This is a project that can help us kind of dig out of that hole that we're in. And the positive part about that is that solar is the cheapest type of energy that we can build currently. It's also the quickest to deploy. So not only is it going to offset those costs, but we can actually start tackling this problem. In 2023, and it was in the slides before, the comprehensive plan said that Culpeper County had a demand of 240 megawatts for the county. Again, a 65 megawatt project that puts us at 27% of the county's electricity. I know that other types of demand have been permitted since then. I'm going with the figures that Culpeper has, and I don't have the updated figures on how much demand you have permitted. So just want to throw that out there as a perspective of how much power this might generate. And then that creates reliable local power that keeps lights on when at critical times and keeps costs down. And then there's the workforce part of this. Again, we employ a number of construction workers in the state, and there are provisions in this application that have for job fairs locally here and to make sure that we can hire as much folks local as we can. So I want to close by again reiterating that in 2023, Culpeper County created a new solar ordinance, and it's a very comprehensive ordinance, right? I think you should feel confident in the ordinance that you created. And this project is meeting that ordinance. It is, when you ask for what this project should look like, here it is. We have created it, and it is here for you. Again, I want to highlight a tremendous amount of local outreach we've done. We hear again and again those two big concerns about farmland and housing, and we are neither of those things. And again, this is another time where you can address the current energy crisis by helping to get power online, not only for Culpeper, for all of Virginia. So
Okay.
I'm here for questions, and we have other staff members here if you have also.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we heard of, I think, just this snow event that we just had. Some serious situations almost happened. And,
Yeah.
So, don't know when, but we know that something's going to have to be done.
I was very
eventually.
thankful to have nothing happen,
Oh,
honestly.
yeah, that's right, that's right. So, questions. We've heard the presentation, and so Eli, we'll start from your side. You have any questions, sir?
Yes, I do. Specifically on your stormwater quality, there's a report in there that states, if I can find the line again, the final site plan is going to include like on-site BPM, on-site things, but it also states you're going to be purchasing off-site nutrient credit for that to become compliant with DEQ regulations. Can you explain a little bit more what those off-site credit purchases, what that entails and what that is?
This is Tiffany Severs. my thought.
Okay.
Tiffany Sievers, Director of Permitting for Strata. So with regards to did I turn it off?
It's good.
Okay. With regards to those statements, so the way that we're going to be meeting stormwater is a combined of permanent on-site BMPs as well as conserved open space.
Mm-hmm.
So those areas where there's buffers in and around the wetlands and streams and some of the floodplain areas, those will be considered conserved open space, so they'll meet that water quality definition. The quantity piece will be matched both by on-site and then having those additional buffers. So right now, that statement is just that we leave that open if we were need to purchase credits. This is a preliminary plan. It hasn't gone through
Right.
local review and approval, which will be required prior to us being able to construct that way. So this is just a preliminary, here's what the layout is. We have accounted for those areas in Virginia. We basically need the most land pretty much about any state to meet the stormwater controls. Heather and I are backgrounds in stormwater. We were on the compliance and enforcement side. Part of the reason we came here from the private side was to try and drive better design. So Strata stepped up. They've listened to us. They said, okay, we'll set back further. Yes, we'll do redundant BMPs. We'll consider how we're going to phase these projects. You can't blast the whole site open. Your ordinance doesn't allow it, which is
Right.
great, by the way. But you also, just from a development standpoint, that's a risk. We don't want to put the natural resources at risk or the county, downstream property owners. We're looking at all of those pieces when we're designing.
Right. I do have one more question. It was under the conditions, under the water protection, kind of the same thing. I just think the number one concern a lot of folks is the water quality with sites like these. It says that if the groundwater is contaminated, the permit holder has 90 days to notify the county with a plan on how to remedy that. Was that an agreement between you and the county, or who came up with that 90-day number?
Is done in the ordinance.
Is that, okay, if that's.
Yeah, so we're seeing that across Virginia where
Okay.
there's some, basically we're doing groundwater and soil sampling up front to make sure we have that background data, and then we have the ongoing sampling throughout the project. All of that reporting goes to the county. From the perspective of coordination, if there were to be some sort of contamination, which we haven't seen in the 26 sites we've done, we would be coordinating with the county, Department of Health, DEQ. There's a whole slug of people who would get involved pretty quickly if something like that occurred.
Cool. Thank you, that's all I have.
Okay. Katie?
I don't have any questions. I just want to correct a statement that was made. Forestry is part of agriculture, so it is impacting farmland. The growing and production of timber is part of agriculture and is nationally recognized as such.
Okay. Thank you. Next?
I'll just start off with one question. This was prompted by a letter from the Piedmont Environmental Council. And I was just curious if you could describe the violations you incurred at the Moon solar site. It says at some point you incurred $47,000 of violations. And it described in their letter as a similar site as timberland that was converted to solar. And I'm just wondering what happened there and what went wrong.
So the reference to that is for the Dominion consent order. Strata has not received.
It was
a
described
consent order.
as one of your projects. I don't have the
So
location.
the order that was posted, that we had seen as an order that was issued to Dominion.
Okay.
And there are a number of contractors associated with
All right.
those sites.
So I was reading this as it was talking about the same topography, and it had to do with excess runoff.
I think the front end of it is that a lot of the existing issues with sites are from the old design. A lot of the sites were not considering the panels as impervious. Water's going to do what water does, regardless of what the law says. You should be planning for the best. So one of the first recommendations for this project was that we would design under the new criteria. So what the existing recommendation is to consider the area under the panels as disconnected impervious. This project accounts for that. The secondary piece is that phasing this project to where you don't have everything open at one time, another consideration. So when we're thinking about moving through the compliance issues on these large sites, a lot of the issue is the first thing to do is cut it all down, put way too much open at one time. At best, some of these controls on their own are not going to be able to handle 200 acres of open disturbed area. That's not our intention, and your ordinance doesn't allow for it. So we proactively on this site said, hey, based on recommendations of us having been on these solar sites and done compliance inspections, we've got to start on the front end. Bigger buffers, further back from any kind of natural resource area has to be a lot more limited, both to the BMP itself and how much is open at one time from disturbance, and making sure you account for the quantity of water coming off of these panels. We're doing so by considering the panels and that area underneath as impervious. A lot of these projects that we've seen non-compliance on, I was at DEQ for 10 years, so a lot of it was, well, we designed to the requirement. The requirement wasn't sufficient if you didn't take into account that the water runs off the panels. It comes off hard, it comes off fast, so you've got to think about that in the planning of your project, and this does. That's why you saw, what was it, 200 and some acres for BMPs? You know, that a huge bulk of the land that we're using is for the BMPs. It's almost 1-to-1 for under panel. It's how much we're going to have in, you know, bioretentions or long-term detention, retention, et cetera, during construction and post-construction in in coordination with that conserved open space. So a culmination of lots of different items that some of them aren't even required, but we're doing it because it's good design, long-term better for the environment, and it's better for operations and construction as well.
Okay, thank you. I'll pause with just one question.
Okay.
I got a bunch.
Go ahead.
Okay, I've got several. Blasting. In the geotechnical report, it said, based upon the bedrock and so forth that's there, you're probably going to have to do some blasting. It said you were going to blast, if you're going to blast, you'd probably have to do it to create the basins and maybe the cabling trenches. Will any blasting be required to install the racking?
There's a number of, oh, sorry. Adam Thompson, Director of Development for Strata, for the Southeast. There's a number of different ways to install the racking. The primary way we do it in Virginia, not just up here, but in Western Virginia, is to drill and set. And so we'll pre-drill, you've got, it's called an I-beam, it's maybe that big around. Pre-drill all those holes. If we were in the eastern part of the state, we wouldn't have to. We could pound those into the soil, it's soft enough. But here it's drill and set.
Okay, so you plan to pre-drill, not do the power driving?
That's right.
Okay, thank you. In here you talked about a visibility study and so forth, and I guess I didn't quite see much of a study. There's a statement in there basically says that it doesn't look like anything will be have an unobstructed view of the facility. What about the substation?
Yeah, the substation is very centrally located and fully screened. In fact, from almost any side, it's fully screened and far away from almost anything.
Yeah, down
It's
that
right
corner,
there.
okay,
So this is all being left.
And all of this is the.
okay.
That's being left.
Okay. On your diagram, you showed the substation, then you have something called a utility switch yard, which is a bigger area. I'm not quite sure what that is.
It is adjacent to it. It's almost effectively the same thing.
Okay, so that's all part of the same?
It's all part of the one big footprint.
Okay. In the documentation, different places it talked about the term limit on this. Is it 30 years, is it 35, or is it 40?
It
Because
is
I've seen several different,
35 years.
35, okay. Okay. I'm still confused at the 291 acres. Does that is that just the solar panels, or does that include the basins, or does that include everything inside the fence line?
Everything inside the fence line, which does not include the basins, but does include the roads and the substation and the switch yard. So
Okay,
you have
so
panels,
it's inside the fence line, less the basins.
correct. So
Okay.
there's 202 acres of basins surrounding that.
Okay,
And then buffers. And I think we have pulled out buffers are different than the conserved space, but again, it's overwhelmingly conserved.
okay. And what happens to the basins when it gets decommissioned?
They remain in place.
They just remain in place?
They do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on the decommissioning plan, there's a draft that it's not final. The county will still have an opportunity to weigh in both on the cost as well as the details in it. But there are certain things that are on site now that if the landowner requests and at the approval of the county can remain on site. Essentially, the general conditions are that it will return to pre-development condition. So some of those could stay if the landowner would like to, but if you remove the impervious area, those basins are not required to stay. And you would have to come back in at that time, just like you do on the front end for the development, and get an erosion and stormwater plan for the decommissioning activities. So as of now, if you have a site that is redeveloped or restored back to, depending on the land cover and land use and impervious area, they can be, some of those post-construction BMPs can be removed. Now, if it's changed and the landowner wants to stay the way that it is, and it's changed the hydrology of the site, we don't want to concentrate flow anywhere else. So all of that would have to be reviewed and designed by an engineer, submitted back to the county at the time of decommissioning.
But your decommission, you're going to provide a surety for that decommissioning.
Correct.
What are you planning to do then
Right.
with those things?
So it's in the decommissioning plan. It's actually goes down through the details, which includes erosion sediment control, stabilization, grading, return to existing condition, which can mean like soil amendments, et cetera. So all of that is detailed in that plan.
Okay.
And the way that it's set up now is to return to pre-development condition.
Thank you.
But all of that is detailed, and that cost is considered in the surety estimate that's
Okay,
included.
but we don't have that cost estimate yet, is that correct?
There's a general overview cost, but that detailed by every single one we will do once we get through the process and meet with the county. All of that has to be reviewed and approved upfront, including a contingency amount.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Let's see. And somewhere in here, did I read that one of the conditions is there will be no storage batteries?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
That's conditioned explicitly to be approved.
Let's see. In your traffic analysis that you provided, you talked about the total number of trips that would have to be taken, but can you give us an estimate as to, how many trips but for trucks would we expect a day during the pre-construction phase and during the construction phase? Any idea?
I don't have the number off the top of my head, sir.
Okay, could you get that?
I can absolutely get that for you.
Thank you. Let's see. I think that's it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
That wasn't too bad. Yes, you have any?
No questions.
Okay. John?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd like to ask the staff a question, just with regard to the siting agreement, Ms. Harris. I assume that's primarily a board consideration as opposed to this commission?
Correct. The planning commission focuses on the land use and the board focuses on the fiscal.
So my recollection is that the board didn't want to look at siting agreements until they looked at the use permit, but really, we're not looking at the siting agreement.
No, but we wanted to make sure that you're aware that it's
Understand.
included.
Yes,
Okay. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Harris?
Would you
At
like,
this particular point, it was just informational purposes.
correct.
So no one has any other questions?
I've just got one
Oh, you do?
comment,
Okay.
basically.
Go ahead, yes.
Several places in here it talks about different types of analysis to be conducted and the fact that the county has the right to bring in an independent evaluator, if you will, paid by the applicant. And I just want to make sure that all of that stuff gets done in the amount of time. If we need an independent analysis of something before we're going to take a look at it to determine if the permit's going to get approved, then we need to make sure that gets done. Just a comment.
Okay. Yes. Mr. Bennett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen. I'll just have a very general comment. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of details. But the proposal that you have before you, I've been reading through the details, and there's a whole number of things that are of the nature, give us the use permit, and we'll figure out these things once we have the use permit. Now, take, for instance, page 7, condition 17.2.4 of the conditional use permit application. It says that a decommissioning plan has been developed and financial assurance to cover the cost of the decommissioning will be provided to the county. Well, I don't think the plan has been developed thoroughly, but what's kept me awake for for years representing governments is, this is 35 years from now, and I remember going after surety companies, and I've told you this before, on behalf of the county when the economy went off and a lot of the roads were not built in subdivisions or the final surfacing wasn't done. And we went after the surety companies, and the surety companies fought us as hard as they could in court not to get a judgment, not to be liable. But once they were liable, and there was a number of jurisdictions after them, the vast majority of them went into receivership. And these different counties throughout the state ended up not getting the assurances that they thought they had. A surety company, a surety is just a piece of paper, a promise from a company, and whether that money is going to be here or not, it's not guaranteed by any super fund or anything like that. So in other jurisdictions for projects of a smaller duration, I always recommend a letter of credit, and we've talked about that. You just go over to the bank and put it on the counter and give them a letter that the conditions have been violated, and they hand you a check right there. So then you have the check and you call the shots. But here, at the end of 35 years, you have nothing except a piece of paper from a company that may or may not still be in business. So there's some deposits towards that, and it can be, it can be adjusted and other mechanisms put into place, but once it's approved, your negotiating power is greatly diminished. So I don't have the answer to that right now. It's something I've been thinking about for years, but I think the answer is something along the lines that they've got all these other projects and they need to secure it by their cash flow from the other projects.
Okay.
Because they will still be around. The other
All right.
thing is that on the water, groundwater and water protection measures 17-7-6 will comply with this use standard when constructed. So how is the review process to work if it's essentially as-built? And that's, I think, an important consideration for everybody. But there's a whole bunch of those like this, and
Oh, yeah.
I would suggest that the approach should be, show us that you can solve all these things, show us how you're going to solve them, and then that's part of the consideration whether or not to grant the special use permit. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And I think the staff take that information into consideration with that long list of all the other things that was there. Okay, all right. Now, we have that information. If we don't have anything else for staff, then Denise, we just move forward at this particular point. And we thank Maroon or Strata for the presentation, and we'll use that accordingly. Thank you very much. Some of the things also that we heard, as far as us making our decision, a lot of that information the board has to definitely take into consideration. I think we was talking about the water and the different things, decommissioning and all that, because the list of items that we were given, not given, that's in our ordinance now, covers all those things, and those things have to be complied with before. So that's very important, and I know we delve into that. The citizens delved into that, and contributed a lot to that, so that that list would be complied to. So, but all right, it's in your court now.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So moving on to your last work session, ZTA-15-25-1. This is a proposed zoning ordinance amendment. The Board of Supervisors Rules Committee reviewed the zoning ordinance definition for utility power generation and storage facilities. And then the Board of Supervisors at its January meeting referred this to the Planning Commission. Can you go to the next, yeah. Go back one. Thank you. So just a quick history. Back in October and December of '25, thank you, the Rules Committee, as I mentioned, reviewed the zoning ordinance for the utility power generation and storage facilities. Those right now exist in your zoning ordinance as one definition. And the goal was to create them as distinct and separate definitions within the zoning ordinance, so then they could recommend the removal of the utility power generation from the A1. At the January 6th meeting, the Board of Supervisors reviewed the Rules Committee recommendations and then moved the item to be reviewed by the Planning Commission. So in your packet, you saw the proposed red lines that the Rules Committee came up with and then forwarded to the Board of Supervisors, that basically looks at Article 2 in the definitions to create two distinct definitions. And then where it is currently permissible in A1, it is proposed to be removed. And then under light industrial and HI industrial, it would add the distinct new definition as a permissible use under a conditional use permit approval. So at this time, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission actually table this discussion until April. Because as you saw, there are a lot of energy and solar bills, battery storage bills making their way through the General Assembly as we speak. So we would recommend that you postpone it till after the General Assembly adjourns and we see what actually shakes out, because it would help inform whatever due diligence you want to do on crafting the zoning text amendment.
Okay, the commissioners, what's your pleasure there? If anyone disagree with tabling this, the chair entertain a motion.
I move to table this until after April, when the General Assembly closes.
Okay, do you have a second? Second. All in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed likewise. Okay, we will comply with that and see it again in April. Okay, all right. Do you have anything else, staff?
Simply that next month, right now, it's looking like you may have upwards to 3 public hearings, and we'll keep you informed as it unfolds and we move forward.
Okay.
And next week, we have the special meeting at 7 o'clock on the CIP.
Yes, yes. And don't worry, we've had 3 applications or public hearings before. Well, we know how to handle it. Okay. All right. Then, do we have anything else? No one have anything else? Chair, entertain a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Okay. This meeting is now adjourned.